Thank you very much for being here today and for taking one of our IU South Bend students. I will tell you honestly that the approach I'm using to speak with you today was stolen directly from one of our graduate students, and I will give her credit at the end of this presentation. So thank you for being here. Why are we here? What are the objectives of this presentation? What is it that I want you to take away from our time together here today? What I want you to take away is twofold. First, I would like you to be informed. What is it that these students might be doing in your classroom? And why and how are they doing it? What are our purposes for what they're doing? And secondly, to get feedback from you. Can you possibly give us feedback on how we're preparing our teacher candidates to meet the needs of the students in your classroom? In particular, the students who are not the students we all dreamed about when we were students ourselves. When we were preparing to be teachers, we had dreams of these wonderful students. No. The students that I am asking you for support with in preparing our candidates today are not these happy students, the ones that learn the way we expect them to learn. Rather, we are asking for your feedback today on how best to prepare ourselves for those students who just don't see things the way we do, who don't speak the way we do, who don't listen the way we do, and who are just really so challenging with all their differences. We'd like your feedback on that. Thank you. Now, what are your students doing? And what are our students, the teacher candidates, doing in your classroom? They are providing service. They are learning. So these service learning field placements are designed for you to be able to support those different kids that we were speaking about earlier, the ones that we just don't know how best to serve, the ones who need an additional adult hand to hold, who need an additional ear to listen to them. Those are the students that we want feedback on. Those are the students that we want, those are the students who want your feedback on how we can prepare our teacher candidates to serve, but those are the students that our teacher candidates will serve. So you'll be pairing our teacher candidates with your students who need support. Now, what our students, our teacher candidates, will be looking at is the teaching and learning relationship. How that bond is created with students who are similar to us and who are different from us. And there are several distinctions and tools that I'm going to share with you in this next 5 or 10 minutes that our students will be bringing with them. So, the first distinction our students are bringing with them as they look at the teaching and learning process are filters. We do an activity in class where they list adjectives of the most horrible people they can think of, like Hitler, and then they list adjectives on another piece of paper of people like Mother Teresa, Jesus, or Buddha. They then pair up, and person A tells person B what they did this weekend. If person A is listening from the filter of Hitler, anything that their partner says that they did last weekend is going to be seen as terrible. If they're listening from the filter of Mother Teresa, it'll be fabulous. So for example, a 23-year-old male student who is the girls' volleyball coach at the middle school level and a bouncer at a teenage weekend club that's alcohol-free would be considered an amazing servant who cares about children if we're listening from this filter, but we'd be a little skeptical about his motives if we were listening from that filter. So the students have that experience in my classroom at IU South Bend, then they go out into their lives and notice how filters limit the possibilities of learning and relationships with others. How they themselves are limited in their relationships to others if others listen to them from a filter. So, filters. The second thing that we do to help support our teacher candidates in dealing with student differences is something called types, which many of you have experienced as the Myers-Briggs, perhaps the teacher types and tiger stripes. What we use are true colors. There's a true colors inventory, and there is also a real colors inventory. Those inventories indicate differences in learning styles and approaches. So when our students realize that the way they do it is not necessarily the right way, but their way, and that there are many different ways of doing things, they are empowered to relate to people who have different approaches than they do. So we work with types the beginning of the semester in groups where people are grouped with folks like them, and at midterm they swap out and experience working with people who are different from them, and it gives them the opportunity to explore how they relate to differences and where their strengths and areas for growth are in that process. The last primary thing that we do in helping students deal with difference is called the Rule of Six. It was designed by Paula Underwood, a Native American educator, and it's basically this, that for any phenomena, anything that happens, there are 6,000 possible explanations. But if we can just think of 600, we would be totally empowered to realize we might not be right. Not a lot of time to do that, so we just want people to think of 6 possible reasons why something might happen. So we go through that activity with them, and they start to look at their lives and their relationships, and they realize that they are not always right. So, filters, types, rule of 6. All of this is designed to build their capacity for listening with empathy and responding with accountability for the whole, which I am arguing, positing, speculating. Again, your feedback would be more than welcome as basic premises for restorative justice in education. So our students are going to be coming out into an environment where they are going to be doing restorative justice circles. They're going to be relating to their students from RJE principles, restorative justice in education. And if they do not have the necessary dispositional capacity to listen with empathy and to respond with accountability for the whole community that is impacted by whatever happens, they are not going to be effective in relating to students from an authoritative paradigm, which is doing things with students, rather than an authoritarian paradigm where we do things to and for. Do to and for. That was not very well done, but you get the point. We do not do things to and for students. So that's why we need RJE and the capacity for students to listen with empathy and respond with accountability for the whole. So how do we do that? We do that through class discussions, activities, their observations with you, and all of these things underlie the major tool that we're using in our class right now called story modules. So these story modules are like a video game where students interact with a story. And the pivotal moment in that story is one of empathy. They see how empathy can shift an entire relationship to be positive and effective rather than conflicted. It shifts the wrenches of resistance into empathetic moments, the possibility of understanding a person who was prior to not understood. So we're going to invite you to participate in these story modules with your teacher candidates. Again, they're like a video game. You'll go through an orientation that reviews, again, filters, types, the rule of 6, and RJE. There will be art activities, there will be writing, reflecting activities. People have options to choose. One does not expect it to use the entire module for each story. So that's it. We'd like you to participate in the modules with our students, to give us feedback, to have something to share with them, and more details to follow. If you're interested, please let your principal or your teacher liaison know. We'll get you set up with IUSB teacher candidates. We'll connect you to the story modules. We'll ask you to take a survey about how you think they work to support you and your students in dealing with those really difficult students and transforming the wrenches of resistance into empathy that flows freely so that people can have positive, happy, loving, peaceful, fulfilling teaching and learning relationships. Are you in? I certainly hope so. Thanks again very much for your time. Oh, and thank you, Maria Caponegro, who did your final presentation in this style and inspired me to try it for this draft video. We hope to professionalize this presentation in the future based on your feedback. And no teachers were harmed in the filming of this pilot video. Have a great day, everyone.